All right, good afternoon, everybody. Let's go ahead and grab our seats and we'll get started here. It's about 1:33. We'll call our PPRTA meeting to order. And we'll start with the first item, I'm going to call to order, establish a quorum. Let's see. Jess, do we have a quorum with us today? We do not have 6 for the vote that we'll need later on. So hopefully, who do we have that's not here that's probably going to show? Is okay. Mojinos is, do you know if Carrie is going to get online or show up by chance?
Carrie should be on. I think Holly might have.
Holly will not. She's sick. And,
right. So Carrie should be.
All right. Do we have Yolanda? Is Yolanda? I think I see Yolanda. Yolanda's
I'm
on.
here.
Hi, Yolanda. So hi. Wayne, we don't have Wayne yet either, do we? Okay. So we do have a quorum to begin, but how far down do we get before we need the 6 to vote? We can always move that to the end.
Need six for item 7 on the
For
agenda.
item
So
7,
we might have to pass over the item 7
All
if
right.
we don't have 6 here.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to item 2, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
Yolanda, move to approve.
I'm sorry, before we approve it, I did have one added item I'd like to add on to the agenda.
You bet, Jennifer, go ahead.
I have a report on the Avery bankruptcy. I think we could add that as 11D as an approval item.
Okay, 11D as an approval item for the bankruptcy issue. All right, with that amendment to the agenda, do I still have a motion from Yolanda?
I motion to approve with the amendment.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second John Graham.
Okay, Mayor Graham seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have none. Item 2, the amended agenda is approved. Moving on to item 3, public comment period for items not on the agenda. Yes, Jim, please approach the podium.
Jim Godfrey. As some of you may know, I serve on several other planning groups representing the CAC, and 2 of those are Connect COS, which is the city's long-range transportation planning effort, and also the Platte Avenue Corridor Study. And I just wanted to make the members of the board, the public, and for the record that both of those efforts have a virtual public meeting about the transportation improvements coming up on Wednesday, December the 15th from 5 to 7 p.m. I have a flyer. You can also go to the city's website and just put Connect COS and bring up, and there's also a link in there, but just wanted to make you aware that there is a virtual public meeting looking for public comment on the progress being made on those 2 efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Well, I think, Andy, were you going to text Wayne to see if you just hadn't heard back from him? Or
I texted Wayne about 20 minutes ago and have not heard back. Texted
Okay.
Holly 5 minutes ago and haven't heard from her.
yeah,
her either.
she said she was not going to be able to join us.
Yeah, I was
on-
hoping if she's still connected somehow, she could let us know if he's on his way or not.
Got
but
it,
Haven't
yeah.
heard. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that's the public comment. Anybody else in the audience comments on items not on the agenda? Anyone out in Zoom/Teams land? Anybody just wanting to? Okay, I see no one. All right, we will move on from item 3 to item 4, approval of the minutes from our last meeting in November meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from November PPRTA meeting?
I'll move approval, John Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. We have the approval, the motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Mojinos.
Lohinos, thank you. Commissioner Lohinos. Gonzalez seconds it, and okay, any discussion? I see none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have none. So the minutes are approved. Item number 5, Citizens Advisory Committee, and Jim, we'll get Jim Godfrey back up here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the
afternoon.
board. Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. Our meeting last week, Bev presented the modified budget that you guys talked about last month about changing the total to 150 mil. No discussion. CAC recommends approval of that suggestion or request. The city of Colorado Springs presented 7 contracts to the CAC. We recommend approval of their request. The same with the county. They recommended, they had 1 contract, and we recommend approval of that as well. Then, as we've been discussing over the last several months, the discussion on the PPRTA 3 matrix. We had 2 remaining items to discuss on that. One of them was the maintenance of effort base year, the discussion about changing that. I'll let Rick address what his direction was, but basically after discussing this, the CAC had recommendation from last month, or when we suggested going to 2019. Our recommendation has not changed, and we'll go with whatever the board wants to do, but we do not have an additional recommendation for you on that item.
As I recall too, the staff's recommendation was to go with that, correct? Or did Gail want to say something to that, or?
Go ahead. The recommendation from City of Colorado Springs staff was no change from 2004.
Right.
And we're prepared for a more in-depth discussion of that when we get to that item on the agenda.
Roger.
The second item in the matrix that we did discuss, and again, I can come up and provide CAC input when you get to this item on the agenda versus trying to do
Yes.
it now.
Yeah, that's what that. Let's do it.
The other one was an issue regarding the restructuring of the CAC to accommodate Calhan and the members of the CAC and stuff. And so we have a couple of things to discuss on that when you get to that line item. Got a couple of recommendations on that. And other than that, I think that was it from the CAC report.
Thank you. And now we want to make some recognitions at this time. First, and before I do that, I wanted to introduce, I think Calhan's Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Gardine. Is that how it's pronounced? Are you here? Come on up and introduce yourself up here real quick. And you got about 45 minutes to speak.
Oh, man.
No,
How about 45 seconds?
that's perfect.
Okay. I'm Roland Gardine, Mayor Pro Tem. We got the election done. It's been approved by Ireland. Now we're over here getting you guys to do the public hearings, and then we become part of it. Okay. We're really motivating them about and taking care of our roads and our infrastructure and that kind of stuff. And you guys are going to really give us a big hand in that area. So anyway, if you guys have any questions from us, please get a hold of us. But I wasn't ready for a speech. I didn't. Okay.
You're the pro tem, you're Mayor Pro Tem. We're always ready for a speech right now. Thank you, Roland.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And welcome, by the way. All right. Now, what we want to do for the next few minutes is recognize 3 of our Citizens Advisory Committee reps who have done their good duty. Their time is up and they're going on to bigger and better things. And so we want to recognize three wonderful gentlemen. We're going to do it one at a time. This will be quick. So I'm going to ask Reb to come up first. And you have to stand here while I read this. So come on up. So Richard Reb Williams. So the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority wishes to acknowledge its deepest gratitude to Richard Reb Williams for his invaluable contribution to the PPRTA Citizens Advisory Committee from April 2013 to December 2021. And signed by both myself and Jim Godfrey, who's the chair. And with that, sir, I'd like to present to you a wonderful helmet / hat and a certificate. We're going to get a picture here. Let's step over here.
Come on over this way.
Yeah,
Snap
and you can
it.
put that on for your picture. And we're going to hold this the other way around. Oh, okay. Here you go. Here, hold this and we'll take a picture together.
You're very nice. Very good. Thank you.
Congratulations, Rev. It's been a real pleasure working with you for this short time. And you may certainly, the podium is yours.
I'm going to take 45 seconds. I'd like to make a special thanks to Rick, Bev, and Jess. Without them, we worked hard as it is, but they made it so much easier. Thank you both, all three of you. Thank you, Bev. Jess.
So now I'd like Tom Ersba to come up and see if I got that right. Yeah. So I'm going to read this for you, sir. The Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority wishes to acknowledge its deepest gratitude to Tom Ersba for his invaluable contribution to the PPRTA Citizens Advisory Committee, March 2015 to December 2021. All right. You can adjust that if you want to. That's right. Yeah. And we're gonna hold your certificate. Yep. There you go. All right. All right. Congratulations and thank you for your service. Thank you. Speech?
Sure. It's been a privilege and an honor to represent the citizens of El Paso County. And as I said at the CAC meeting, what's really great about the CAC is it's Americans at their best. They're volunteering, they're caring about others, and they're carrying it forward. It's a great organization. People are really trying to do what the voters want us to do. And that's outstanding. So I appreciate the opportunity.
And again, thank you for serving. Jim Moore. I don't think, is Jim here today? No. That's right, yeah. So I'll read, but I'll go ahead and Jim, another Jim can accept for him. Yeah, the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority wishes to acknowledge its deepest gratitude to Mr. Jim Moore for his invaluable contribution to the PPRTA Citizens Advisory Committee, January of 2020 through December of 2021. All right. We'll take this.
I'll make sure that he
Yes.
gets it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to take this to work.
Absolutely.
I'd like just to make a brief comment. If I get emotional, it's because I care. So deal with it. These three guys have really contributed a tremendous amount. Jim Moore and I go back to the PPACG CAC years ago when he was a military affairs rep to the group. And I was so glad that he joined our group as well. Reb and Tom have been the first chair and second chair for the CAC for a while. And their knowledge of the industry of what we do and their contribution and care and concern about the community are irreplaceable. And so I just want to add my thank you to all three of these guys for their tremendous effort, and thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Can you stay up there just a second? I wanted to, do I need to clarify, Rick, on, do we need to accept the CAC report as it is now, or wait till Jim goes through more detail later? Now, okay, good. That's what I thought. So I need a motion to accept the CAC report for this month.
Yolanda moved to accept the CAC report.
I'll
Thank you.
second John Graham.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. The CAC report has been accepted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right, Bev, the monthly financial reports.
I wonder if I could just say something.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge here we're losing such institutional knowledge, and what I've learned from Rev and Tom and Jim has been invaluable, and they give of their, blood, sweat and tears, hours of work just to advise us, the board, who have been here longer than any board member that's been on. And so I just want all the gentlemen to know that I truly appreciate their work and feel a little bit of a loss there, because we've got some people that really know this area. So I just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
And they're all got big smiles, Yolanda, towards what you just said, and I agree totally, of course. All right. Ms. Bev.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We just received our sales and use tax report from the state, and we received 12,421,000 for October, which was 431,000 above the budgeted amended budget for the month, or 3.6%. And it's not as high as the prior months, but we anticipated that it should be going down because the additional unemployment distributions ended at the end of September. And I believe that was $300 a week for unemployed people. So some of that accounts for it going down a little, but we're still doing very well. And then on the second page, compared to last October, we received 1.22 million more in October of 2021 compared to 2020, or 10.9% more. Are there any questions?
It sounds like we're continue to do very well.
Yes, we are.
Any questions out there on financial reports? Okay. Okay, now we are at a little bit of a dilemma. Oh, I see the thumbs up. Excellent. Welcome, Carrie and Wayne. We're just getting to we just finished item 6, and we're moving on to item 7, which we actually need you guys here for that, or at least one of you.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I was a little bit late.
That's okay. That's quite okay. So item number 7, public hearing and consider approval for resolution regarding inclusion of the town of Cowhan to the PPRTA. So with that being said, I'm going to first open, and Jennifer, tell me this is the appropriate time to open the public hearing.
Yep.
Okay. I'm opening the public hearing, which is consistent with the published and mailed notices. With that said, is there any comments, questions from the public, either online? And Jess, do you have anybody that's dialed in?
A couple people on here, I don't know if they would speak, so
Right.
I've gotten a message.
If you're online and you want to speak, please come up now and introduce yourself. I guess not. How about in the audience, public comment time? No one in the audience. All right. And so Jennifer, I think with that said, I think I'm going to
So I'm just
close.
gonna, while we have the public hearing open, I'll just put a couple of things in the record.
Yes.
So I'm just going to review the resolution. This was in the meeting packet, the public meeting packet, so you all have this information. As you know, the town of Callahan by resolution 2021-3 asked to be added to the PPRTA and have their boundaries included. They then set a special election on that matter for November 2nd, 2021. And the voters of the town did approve the ballot question authorizing the inclusion of the territory within the town into the authority and imposition of the authority's sales and use tax. In accordance with section 12.3 of the establishing IGA, the addition of a governing body has to be, or of a new member, I'm sorry, has to be approved by the governing bodies of all the existing members. As you'll all recall, we did have some conditional approvals, and then we did the fourth amended and restated IGA to address that. We do now have confirmation from all the member governments that they have consented to the inclusion of the town of Callahan. At this last board meeting on November 10th, the PPRTA did set this public hearing in accordance with the establishing IGA and statutory requirements. The notice of this public hearing was both published in the newspaper and mailed to the property owners within the town of Callahan and the Division of Local Government and the Transportation Commission. So we've now held that public hearing. At the conclusion of this, the public hearing will be closed, and the board's making a number of findings here in the resolution that are set forth in the resolution I've basically just reviewed. And if you do adopt the resolution, what you'll be doing is including the territory within the boundaries of the town into the boundaries of the authority that will subject it to the PPRTA sales and use tax. And you'll be adding them as a member of the establishing IGA, directing my office to file the resolution once it's signed with the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, Division of Local Government, and ensure that it's recorded in the real estate records of El Paso County. And you're also directing me to work with the town of Callahan to enter into a comprehensive intergovernmental agreement, which we bring back to this board at a subsequent meeting for approval. And the resolution authorizes signature of the resolution by your chairperson and by your secretary. So that's all I have to say. So with that, if there's no other comments or questions, you could close the public hearing.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. And with that said, so I'll ask one more time, are there any public comments that want to be made? Yes, ma'am. Please come up and identify yourself at the podium. For the record.
Cindy Tompkins. I'm actually.
Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm actually the CAC representative for the town of Rama, but I'm also the town
Right.
clerk for the town of Callahan. So I just want to say thank you for including us. We did the vote and it was a nice, and of course my cell phone's going off, I'm sorry. We did pass it 60% to 40%. So that was encouraging that our town wants to be a part of this. They're excited to get some street money. And I just want to say thank you. I'm
Thank you, Cindy.
excited to be part of this.
And we're excited to have you.
Thank you.
With all that said, any other public? Nobody, Jess, on, okay. With that said, no further public comments. I, at this time, close the public comments. Now, public hearing, excuse me, the public hearing. With that said, I ask for a motion to approve the Callahan's inclusion of into PPRTA.
Mr.
Randy?
Chairman. Go ahead.
I do have a question, if I could, this Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne, go ahead.
So as our attorney was explaining things, I just want to clarify, the amended IGA has been approved by all of the existing member entities, is that?
Yes, we've both gotten consent from all the member jurisdictions to the inclusion of Callahan, and we also have all members having approved the fourth amended and restated establishing IGA. I'm still waiting on a
Okay,
couple of signature pages, but that's all.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that that had taken place as well. Thanks.
And Mayor, do you have-
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I move that we adopt a resolution approving the inclusion of the town of Callahan into the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority and direct staff and our attorney to take all necessary steps to complete this.
Thank you, Mayor. Do I have this? Yep, Mayor, thank you. So we have a motion and a second discussion. Do we have any discussion, either online or from board members at the table?
I
This
would
is
just
Yolanda. I'd just like to say that I'm really excited to have Callahan join us. And so, of course, I'll be supporting this.
And I would just ask, since we do need to have a 2/3 of the membership, if we could do a roll call vote just to ensure that we have those 6 votes, please.
Excellent idea. Do we want to have, Jess, do you have the roster to? Okay, let's do the roll call.
Okay, for roll call, we'll go with Director Gonzalez, your vote.
Aye.
Director Geithner,
Aye.
Director Graham, we made the motion.
Aye.
All right. Chair Helms,
Aye.
Director Williams, Wayne Williams,
Aye.
Director Avila,
Aye.
and Director Carpenter. Okay, I believe of everybody, that's unanimous. So we have our 7 votes.
All right, ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen, we have a unanimous vote, 7-0. So with that said, we have approved Callahan joining the PPRTA. Yes. And for Roland, do you want to give another speech? No, I took that as a no. All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. So we've finished with item 7. Item 8 also will require me opening up public comments. So let's see, public hearing and approval of the budget.
Correct. So this was designated as the date of the public hearing at our October board meeting. The time and date has been duly noticed in the newspaper. And in November, the board made a decision to go from 138 million in sales and use tax, increasing it to 150 million due to the higher than expected sales and use tax collections in 2021 so far. So the Citizen Advisory Committee recommended approval of this adjusted budget at 150 million, and the board should open the public hearing, receive public comment, the board chair, and then close it and approve a resolution to adopt the budget and the appropriation for the budget.
All right, at this time of my authority, I am opening the public hearing consistent with published notice. Again, I'll ask online if there's anyone from the public that wants to comment or ask a question on our budget. And I'll ask Jess again if she sees anybody trying to, and I'll ask again, if you're online and you want to, go ahead and come on up and introduce yourself online. I hear or see none. I will ask the audience if anyone wants to make a public comment, question about our budget. It's pretty quiet. So with no further questions, I will close the public hearing on our budget. Now, I will ask for a motion to approve the PPRTA 2022 budget.
And appropriate the funds. So we can do that in one motion.
One motion. So we'll add that to it.
Mr.
Mayor?
Chairman, I move that we approve the budget and take care of the appropriations accordingly
Thank you, Mayor.
as presented.
Do I have a second?
Yolanda, second.
Thank you, Yolanda. Appreciate the second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion on the 2022 budget and appropriations? I hear none. So those all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have none. With that, we have a passage of the 2022 budget and appropriations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bev. That takes care of item 8. Next, we move on to item 9, 2021 capital maintenance and public transportation contracts. Yes. Is that up for Gail?
Mr. Chair, Gail Sturdivant, City of Colorado Springs, City Engineer, Deputy Public Works Director. The city is pleased to bring 7 contracts to the PPRTA board for consideration. I will step through each one, and if you have questions at the end of each presentation, please let me know. The first contract is for new traffic signal poles that would be split between 2 program funds, both capital and maintenance. The first one would be the roadway safety and traffic operations program, and the second being the traffic signal maintenance programs. This contract would put a contract in place with Belmont Industries to provide traffic signal poles on an as-needed basis as requested by the city and for use by city staff for installation of traffic signals at installations with city staff. Any question? And that was procured by an RFP process. I'm sorry, I meant to mention that. Any questions on that particular item?
Yes, Mayor.
I don't know the exact number of that, but a typical full-blown intersection typically runs about $250,000. So that's and a bulk of that cost is the poles. So
Any other questions online? Anyone? I don't see anyone.
I'll move on then to the second contract, and I can circle back if things do come up.
Sure.
The city has another it's essentially an on-call contract we're putting in place with 5 vendors to provide a variety of different traffic signal equipment. The total amount across those 5 vendors is $1.7 million. The city did go out through an RFP process. We received 8 respondents. We picked the 5 best vendors, the best price to lock those in. These are parts and pieces that supplement those that are available. Through that, if you recall, we brought a state on-call or piggybacking on the state's contract for traffic signal components. These are components that are sometimes not included in that contract and would also help us bridge. Let me back up. The state contract actually expires mid-year and has to be recompeted. This gives the city the ability to have a bridge or another contract in place to provide traffic signal equipment as needed. This equipment would be purchased as needed for installation by city crews. And that is again split between the 2 programs, the capital program for roadway safety and traffic operations, and then traffic signal maintenance. Any questions on that particular item?
Anyone online? I don't see or hear any, Gail.
Okay, great. Moving on to contract number 3. This is to support the PPRTA road maintenance activities. The city went through an RFP process and received respondents from 6 vendors. We want to put the contracts in place on an on-call basis in $300,000 increments as needed. And basically what the city has done through this process is established rental agreement prices for the year of 2022 for this contract. And it's only used as needed with appropriated funds to provide specialized equipment for in-house city crews.
And again, I don't see anyone coming up online for questions.
Contract number 4 is similar to contract number 3, but it's actually for asphalt materials. Again, the city went through an RFP process. We had multiple responses. We have selected 3 vendors to provide asphalt materials, and we'd like to put 3 on-call contracts in place for $500,000 a piece. Again, based on appropriations and need. So the city's in-house crews can get asphalt materials to provide maintenance activities with city crews equipment or the rental equipment we previously discussed in the aforementioned contract.
Right.
Any questions on that one?
I don't see any.
All right. I'll move on to number 5. Number 5 is actually, if you recall, I believe it was 2 months ago, we brought the contract in place for the bridge maintenance activity on Union Boulevard as it goes over Templeton Gap. If you're not familiar with that where that's located, there is a vicinity map in your package. As I got in there and started looking at the maintenance activities, realized there were additional bridge cells that needed to be covered that weren't in the initial scope. And it also opened up an opportunity to work with 2 other teams within the city to leverage the work that was going on there with maintenance activities to take care of a couple other issues. One of which is for traffic operations. They are going to be adding a southbound, it's a Union southbound Excel lane coming from Acacia. So if you're familiar with St. Mary's High School, if you were to come out on Union Boulevard and make that southbound movement, they're going to be adding an Excel lane there. And then the city's parks department with the trails program, they're going to be assisting with helping us widen that bridge to add basically 10-foot wide protected bike lanes going over that bridge and help with the bridge cell replacement that goes underneath Union Boulevard in that area. So this overall total change order is in the amount of $1,446,679.75. And that is split across 3 funds, bridge maintenance, which is just under 800,000, traffic maintenance for that Excel lane is 400,000, and then 250,000 of the Templeton Gap improvements trail portion, which is on the A list for the ballot as well. And that change orders for Wildcat Construction to complete that work while they're out there doing the previously scoped bridge maintenance activities. Any questions on that particular one?
And again, I don't see anyone online with their hand.
All right.
No one in the board here.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, got 2 more. So I just want to
Yep.
make sure I've got always carry tons of backup in
Yes.
case you ask me questions, except how many signal poles can be purchased for $1 million.
Yeah.
You think I'd figure that one out? 6, contract number 6 is also a maintenance activity. This is special. This is for a specialized piece of equipment for the traffic maintenance crews. This is to replace aged bucket trucks. That is a specialized piece of equipment that's used to do elevated work on traffic signals. So if you looked in the memo, we talked about some of our trucks being 17, 20 years in age, which they've really more exceeded their useful life. But so we're looking at placing one of those pieces of equipment, but 2, we're also going to be looking at more efficiency with this piece of equipment. And if you saw in the memo, this equipment allows them to bring a lot more materials on site with them when they go out to do these repairs and activities. And the bucket truck portion of it itself actually allows 2 workers to be able to go up there on the signal poles as well. And so they usually work in teams of 3 because we have 6 city employees and we have 3 temp employees who typically do that. And so they can have the ability to have 2 hands on, do some on-job training and not necessarily have the supervisor, the expert down on the ground with somebody up on top going and doing it. The quote we've received for this piece of equipment is $246,657 with Altech Industries. So we would be asking for the board's approval to purchase that specialized piece of equipment.
Thank you. No questions.
All right. Last one. So this is for the PPRTA Capital Program Management and Construction Inspection Services. The city holds a contract with MD5 for those services. That was competed through an RFP process in 2018 and established the base year. The first year of that contract was in 2019, and there are 5 option years allowed underneath that contract. This would be for services under option year 3. And again, to support the delivery of capital projects in engineering, construction management, bridge maintenance, program management, and administration associated with that, and has the ability to get some additional procurement help through 2022 as we complete a lot of PPRTA activities through that year. That contract value is for $2,493,913. And I'm available for questions on that contract or any others that I presented today.
All right, I'm looking online. Right now, I don't see anyone asking questions. nor anyone here around the table. All right, Gail, thank you. So with that said, I'm looking for a motion to approve the City of Colorado Springs contracts.
Yolanda,
move
move
it.
to approve.
I'll second John Graham.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Avila and a second by Mayor Graham. Any discussion? None? So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. That motion is approved. All right, 9 Bravo, El Paso County. Jennifer?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Board of Directors, Jennifer Irving, County Engineer, El Paso County. Today, we have one item for your consideration, and that is a contract amendment for our Beacon Light Road project with our consultant. We are adding in right-of-way plans and right-of-way acquisition services for this project. And the contract amendment is for approximately $509,000. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'm looking online. Do we have anyone online with questions? I don't see anyone. Okay, around the table? No questions? Thank you, Jennifer. So I will ask for a motion to approve El Paso County contract.
Move to approve.
I think I heard Commissioner Gonzalez with a motion to approve. Do I
I'll
have a
second John Graham.
And Mayor Graham, second. Any discussion? I hear none. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. The motion for El Paso County contracts is approved. Thank you. Thank you, Judge. All right, item number 10, other reports. City of Colorado Springs Transit Services monthly report is correct. Ah, there you are. Welcome, Craig. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Board Directors.
Pardon? Yeah, it's not on, just touch to the red light. You mean?
Right at center.
Up.
That one.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's on.
Very good. Thank you so much. Well, once again, good afternoon, Board Directors. I'm Craig Blewett, Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs. Our report is in your packet. I'd like to run through some of the highlights. Our local bus service, we still have reduced service due to the driver shortage that we're experiencing. Our current ridership is about 46% lower compared to pre-COVID ridership times. And just to talk about that a little bit. So I've mentioned this now several months in a row, I guess, in terms of the driver shortage. It is part of the nationwide labor shortage, and there seems to be a particular issue with drivers, whether commercial drivers or transit drivers, bus drivers. So we are making progress. We need about 130 drivers to operate regular service, and we're currently at 104. So we're down 20%, down about 26 drivers. And with this, we're currently operating Saturday level service rather than weekday service during weekdays. But we're making progress. The contractor has raised wages by $2 an hour across the board. So starting with the starting drivers as well as the season drivers, as well as bonuses, both a signing bonus and a retention bonus. And that was approved by the Transit Workers Union as well. So that's in place and we're seeing results. We currently have 9 drivers in training and additional 4 drivers will start a class this coming Monday. So each class takes about 6 weeks. So if they already have a CDL, it takes 4 weeks. If they need to get a CDL as part of the process, it takes 6 weeks. So we are making progress. On Monday, we added a route. We added Route 15 on weekdays. This coming Saturday, we're going to add a Saturday route, Route 12. And next Monday, the 13th, we're going to start Route 16 on weekdays as well. And in terms of bringing routes back, we're giving priority to routes that serve a unique geographic area. So we're going to start those first before we add frequency to some of our other routes, just to make sure we have that coverage, that basic coverage for our citizens. So good news there. I mean, it's not good now, but things are looking up. And please know this is a nationwide issue. It's an issue across the state. Just talked to Pueblo this morning. They're down drivers 23%. RTD is looking at another service cut that's coming February. So it's an uphill battle, but I think raising wages and increasing promotions and very active recruitment is starting to pay dividends. Moving on to our 88 paratransit service, that we saw an increase compared to a year ago, but we are still down about 31% compared to pre-pandemic times. On the taxi option, we have that was suspended. It's no longer suspended, and it's starting to increase ridership there as well.
Very good.
Which is good. And then our van pool program, it's still struggling. These are the van pools primarily that go to Denver, and folks are still telecommuting and avoiding group rides for the most part. 11 of our routes are currently suspended with the van pool program. But we think as the pandemic conditions subside, people start going back to work, and as the managed I-25 lane opens up, it's going to be very attractive for a van pool. So that's promising, but not in the short term, but we're looking more midterm for return of our van pool program. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Wow, Craig, I got to say, this is the 8 months or whatever since I've been here, this is the best report that I've personally heard. And it sounds like we have a good future. We got a good plan.
Yes, sir.
And as I recall, we've talked about raising wages and giving bonuses in the past. So it sounds like that's actually what has happened.
Yeah,
so
things are looking encouraging.
Any comments or questions from our members online?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Yolanda.
thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm encouraged somewhat. I think it has been $2 an hour, hasn't it, Craig, already? So I'm just wondering if we could up it another like 50 cents with all the funding that's been available. But I am glad to see that we're looking at sign-on bonuses and as well as retention bonuses. We fought so hard for this, right? And then COVID happened, but it's impacted all of us. So thank you. We are looking up, and I can see that everybody's worked tremendously hard on this, and I appreciate that.
Great, thank you for your comments.
You bet. All right. 10 Bravo, Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition report.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Gail Sturtevant with the city again.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is available for your review. It's an informational item. I did just want to take the moment to point out, though, there is another memo there. I believe Director Williams asked last time, kind of get an idea of the number of parcels and property acquisitions. This was the first pass of the memo. I've got some ideas to keep evolving it the next time, but it is available in your packet as well.
Thank you. Any comments, questions online or from the table? Okay, I see none. 10 Charlie, quarterly report from member governments.
This, Rick Sonnenberg here.
Yes.
This is the quarterly reports from the member governments indicating the work, the construction they've done in the quarter. And it also helps me give me a roadmap for my checking, field verifying that the work's been done in that quarter. It's just an information item.
Right. Okay, any comments or questions from around the table or online to Rick on this quarterly report? I see none. I hear none. We'll move on to item 11, administrative actions and reports. We'll start with 11A, PPRTA 3 matrix. Rick.
There were 2 items on the matrix that were unresolved as of the October board meeting. And I'd like to take them in this order, the maintenance of effort, excuse me, base year, because we have some financial staff from member governments in the audience, and we'd like to give them an opportunity to speak. And the other item is the CAC membership representation. So let me take the second item first, and that's the maintenance of effort base year. At the October meeting, the board directed me to send an email to the 5 member government staffs asking them if the year 2015 would be workable instead of the year 2004 as a revised base year for the maintenance effort provision. What I heard back is that some of the staff members preferred to leave it at 2004.
Correct.
So this went to the CAC last Wednesday at their meeting. They discussed it at length but then approved a motion reaffirming their motion of June, which was, and I quote, the CAC suggested the base year be updated to at least 2019 maintenance effort levels with additional review by member governments financial staffs. And that was a 9-4 vote. So that was the CAC reaffirmed recommendation to you for today. And I'd like to give Jim Godfrey an opportunity to comment, and then we can probably, Mr. Chair, probably open it up to the member government staffs to provide comments.
Roger that. Jim.
Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. We, bottom line, just didn't feel like that we were qualified to make the recommendation to change the base year, that it was up to the professionals. And so that was the reason we didn't change our recommendation from a couple months ago.
Okay, so with that, I think we're open for discussion at this time, right, Rick?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think particularly if there are financial staff members who wish to address this.
Yes, Mr. Williams.
Yes, I'd like to hear from particularly the 2 larger entities as to what this means in real dollars in the original baseline, the 2015 and the 2019 that's thrown out there. Now I get the person who actually understands county finances better than anybody else in America.
Thank you, Commissioner or Councilman Williams. Nikki Simmons, County Controller. Jen asked me to come today to talk about the PPRTA MOE year. Obviously the county's first preference would be to leave it with 2004, as that was the last time it was a new revenue stream. So we understand the reason to have an MOE with a new revenue stream. You don't want to supplant current funding, but now this already is current funding. So extending it doesn't create a new funding source. But if we do need to move it forward, we also understand the need for that and are able to do that. The one thing about county funding at this point is we have been making some very strategic and intentional one-time investments into our roads in the last few years, as we've had a little bit better financial times, and we want to ensure that we could maintain our promised MOE with our full faith. And so moving that year forward, we were asked to look at 2015. That's a year we're comfortable with. We also would be comfortable moving it as far forward as 2017. And in coordination with the City of Colorado Springs, I think that latter year might work better, but we can definitely let the City of Colorado Springs speak to that. For actual real numbers, the MOE from 2004 for El Paso County is $15,073,000. If we move that forward to 2015, which was the year we were asked to consider, that would be $18,866,000. And moving that forward 2 more years to 2017 would be $24,257,000. So there is a difference, about $5.5 million for us between 2015 and 2017, but the county is comfortable with 2017 if that's the year that's decided upon. Does anybody have any questions for me? Anything I can answer? Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Yeah. For Travis.
Yeah, Travis.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we could,
Chris.
I know.
Yeah.
I can give you maybe just the highlights and we can get in more detail as you have them, but with the 2015 In 2004, the city's, the base year amount was approximately $18.1 million. Today, in 2022, we're expecting it to be $29.1 million. One of the reasons when we went and looked, and that is just for transportation as a whole, we actually also went and looked at transit. So we're in a unique position overseeing the transit division. And that's where we had some differences. So if you go and look at 2004, we were at 5.7 million. And then we actually declined up until 2017, where it was back at that 5.7 million 2017. Between now and 2022, we're anticipated to be at 8.25 million, or a $2.5 million increase over the last 5 years or so. So it just kind of gives you a highlight. Again, if we're asked to reset this, really when we looked holistically and particularly with the transit, that we felt like the base year could be reconsidered at 2017. And
Yes.
Chris Wheeler is available and can give you a lot more detail if you have further questions.
So, and here's for me, right, so looking at the last few years, which are still from a sales tax perspective, which is where, unless things have radically changed, the county, and I know the city, get most of their money from sales tax. And so looking at really fantastic sales tax years, which the last few have been, is a little, would be concerning, because we're not always going to be there. One of the things that both the city of Colorado Springs and El Paso County recognized when we made the decision to move from property tax to sales tax is that it's cyclical. And so what I'm hearing from you, from both of you, I think I understand, is that if we go with 2017, that's something you feel we can meet even in the down years. Is that, I'm seeing the people nodding their head up and down, yes.
Yes.
And so I'm comfortable with that. Having dealt now with the big entities, let me turn to my colleagues at Manitou, Rama, and Green Mountain Falls, if they have anybody here. What are your thoughts on 17?
I think in Manitou's case, certainly we would align with that sort of thinking, to be able to deal with the fluctuations you pointed out. So our strategy would pretty much, I think we'd be on board with that.
Rick, I see you raising your hand.
I just wanted to remind the board of the various documents. At the top of the pyramid is the ballot. Maintenance of effort is not mentioned in the original ballot or in the PPRTA 2 ballot.
It is mentioned in the original ballot.
Okay, I knew I should have brought my documents. It is in the IGA between the 5. And
The IGA, actually, the original ballot contained the entire IGA.
Yeah,
I stand corrected.
It was a really long ballot issue.
Yeah.
Wayne gets you on a technical point.
The ballot, okay, I stand corrected. The IGA was attached to the ballot, but the words maintenance of effort are not printed in the actual ballot itself. Am I correct in that, Jennifer?
Well, the IGA was printed as part of the ballot question. The question, the body of the question, which is what you're thinking of, asking, shall the PPRTA be created and there be a tax and all of that. The maintenance of efforts is not in that part and hasn't been carried forward. And the statute and the IGA can be, the statute allows the IGA to be amended without going back to the ballot. So to Wayne's point, I don't think the inclusion of the original IGA in the ballot precludes a change to the IGA without going back to the ballot, because we've done that several times.
Okay, I'll stand corrected. The base year, which I should have just cut to that, is in a board policy. It's the base year is not in the ballot or in the IGA. The board in 2005, and I didn't bring the board policies down with me, but It was one of the original board policies in 2005. The board selected 2004 as the base year. So revising that is a change in a board policy.
Mr. Williams.
So what we're talking about would be a change in the board policy, which would come in front of us as a separately agendized item in the future. And I guess I would ask, since it would come for a vote later, that, Mr. Chair, if we could put that on a future agenda as a formal change to that policy. And sometime in the next couple months, and that would allow folks to give input on it and do it with the 2017 date that's been suggested by the county and city, and the other entities have acknowledged their ability to meet. And so that would be my suggestion as to how we proceed for the maintenance of effort. Since it's a board policy, put that on a separate agendized item. Don't put it in the IGA, or I mean, don't put it on the ballot language, because that then precludes the ability of the board to make changes or increases in the future. So I'd leave it flexible where we have it, but redefine that base year in a board policy and do that sometime in early 2023. Or 2022.
Yeah,
I'm
let's not
skipping
wait that
ahead.
long.
I'm skipping
Yeah.
ahead.
So if we do that, what are the ramifications of delaying this vote on this particular issue?
Well, first, I don't think we've agendized the policy change,
Right,
so we
that's
can't
right.
do it today anyways. So the ramification is we would do it legally. Come on.
You mean illegally or?
No, by delaying it to January, February, putting
We
it
do
on the
legally, then,
agenda.
okay, the positive approach to. legal.
Right. Plus, it also gives, I don't know if for Raymond Manitou, who we're kind of maybe speaking a little off the cuff and allows them to go back, double check, make sure that's good. But I'd also like to give Green Mountain Falls the opportunity to give input if they have any that would alter it.
Would anyone, Travis or Chris or anyone want to speak to, is there an issue with that? All right, do we want to make a motion? Do we need to, Jennifer, online Jennifer, do we need to make a motion to do that, or do we just give a thumbs up to?
Yep, I
put
think
it on the-
that's just direction to Rick to include it on a future agenda.
Okay, Rick, we want to move this to a future agenda. I'm not sure if we can do it in January, but yep,
For the year 2017.
for the year
To
2017.
change 2004 to 2017. in that
Yes.
Board policy, certainly.
Hold on, we haven't all weighed in discussion.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yolanda, you are absolutely correct. You have the floor.
It seemed like it was decided that it was 2017 and, we just, three people have left the CAC with a lot of institutional knowledge and supporting the 2019. So I just want to point out, at the mayor has said, in 143 years, we came up to a $30 billion economy. In the last 7 years, we have come 10 million more. So now we're, I'll say 40 billion GDP. And here we want to stay with 17 now, which I'm pleased to see that it's gone that far when we're talking about maintaining. I mean, we look at the shiny objects, but we don't look at maintaining what we have. And so I don't, so at 2017, when PPRTA 3 starts, it will already be 8 years behind in 2025. And 2029, it will be already, 18, 19 years behind currently. And so I know there's a strong push for this. However, I'm not comfortable with 2017. I'd be more comfortable with 2019. And I just, I couldn't approve of this. And so I'm confused with one thing too. So it was on the ballot initially. Are we looking to where the maintenance of effort will not be on the ballot and it will be just a board policy from here on out?
Excellent question. Mr. Williams.
I think you can, so on the latter question, the base year has never been on the ballot. The maintenance of effort in the IGA was on the first ballot. It was not on the second ballot at all. But the year of what that maintenance effort is based on has not been on the ballot. And so this would continue the current practice of setting the year in board policy.
But the year was on the first ballot.
No,
You said it was within the AGI and everything was on the ballot.
the IGA said they would maintain the effort, but it didn't list the year that the effort would be maintained from. It just said there would be a maintenance of effort.
So it seems like that's all a policy issue then, right?
The base year is a policy issue, the way the board's dealt with it for the last 20 or 18 years.
So that could be changed anytime. the
Yes.
base year, based on.
It
if
seems
there-
like it because it's a
if there's
policy.
Policy change.
The
Yeah.
board can change that at any time.
As long as it meets, and this is where Jennifer Ivy would have to weigh in, as long as it falls within something legitimate, relevant to a maintenance of effort. I think if you changed it to 1902 efforts, that I think that would not meet the intent of the original ballot language in IGA.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, we can go extreme 1902, and it does seem extreme that our GDP has increased in just 7 years by $10 billion. So to leave the maintenance of effort so behind, it's not right. And I don't know who said it, who came to talk to us from the CAC, that there could be some real pushback on this. And I would be leading that charge.
Yeah.
And so
Jim, come on.
I would be leading that charge because I think it's so important. Here we're asking people for a tax hike, a 1 penny tax hike. And I would want to honor them in every way. And so that's where I am right now.
I'm on the tax hike. It isn't a tax hike, is it, Yolanda? It's a renewal of our PPRTA. Isn't that right? Yes.
Yeah, it's a continuation. That's how we've explained it in the past. It's a
Right.
continuation. We're not raising
Not raising
taxes.
tax.
We're not imposing a new
Yeah.
tax. We're just continuing an existing tax.
Do we want Jim to speak on behalf of the CAC or
Yeah.
after Mr. Williams?
I just want to clarify one thing, though. The maintenance of effort refers to maintenance and transit, which are not actually on the ballot for renewal.
That's right.
It's the capital construction part that is on the ballot for renewal, because the maintenance and transit parts are ongoing. And so we have not they're not part of that renewal. It's just the capital construction. So technically the maintenance of effort isn't even part of the renewal aspect, because the transit and the maintenance continue, as Doug Bruce described it when we put it on the ballot, in perpetuity, which is not entirely accurate, but
because it has an expiration date.
No, there is no
No, I
expiration
mean,
date.
it has to be renewed.
No, doesn't have to be renewed.
That's right. The one piece is in
45% of this funding continues until the board rescinds
decides
it
otherwise.
or puts it on the ballot for the people to rescind.
Yeah. I think Jim Godfrey has a comment to make.
I just wanted to clarify, the recommendation to CAC was not embedded in scientific data in choosing that date. It was a date that was suggested, it was reasonable. There was no math, no consultation with the experts about a date. We wanted it to be before COVID, so we're having more accurate representation. But I mean, Gail can speak up, but I can't say that number was driven by anything from a scientific or mathematical point of view.
The only thing I was going to add, and you did get there, Jim, is that you guys were looking for a date pre-COVID.
And is there a big difference between 2017 and 2019? Yes, ma'am.
Nikki Simmons, County
Yes, ma'am.
Controller. So for the county's purposes, 2019 was a good year for us. And we were able to put $7.5 million of one-time funds into our road and bridge budget. And so it's not something that through the budget office, we feel like we can maintain in a promise to voters. It is our intention to try to keep our budget up that high. None of us want to see our road and bridge budget go any lower than that. But if we run into a recession and things need to be looked at, that would tie the county's hands so much that we wouldn't be able to flow with the economy. And so we would be looking at public safety cuts due to a promise we made over here. And so 2017, actually 2018 is about the furthest, I think, was it 2018, Jen, that we could go. 2019 was the year then we had a significant amount of one-time funds that we put in, and we would like to avoid 2019 if possible.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank
I
you.
have a question though. Was
Oh.
this taken into account after the infrastructure bill passed, through Congress and signed by the president?
Is that directed at anyone, Yolanda?
No,
or-
not just anybody that can answer that thing from the county.
Mr.
or the
Williams.
city.
Yeah, I think if I'm recalling most of the infrastructure bill, it's one-time funds. And so making a long-term commitment on one-time funds is not a good thing. And if you go back to 2019, that's kind of the peak of the Trump economic boom. And so you're looking at great sales tax and great numbers. And so scaling it back to before that economic boom better accounts for the cycles that take place. And we haven't had a recession, but to presume there will never be one, I think is reckless. And so picking a really great economic year like 2019, where example, the county had 7.5 million extra that they could put into roads. I don't think that's a fiscally wise thing. I think if we're making a promise, we need to deliver it. And this is where I disagree with what the city did, where they cut it back below that maintenance of effort. I think if we make a promise, we have to be willing to keep that commitment, because that's then something we have told people they should vote for this on. And so I think it is better to use a less robust year that you can maintain during the bad years, because eventually it's going to happen again. And I'm not trying to be gloom and doom, but to presume there will never be an economic downturn, so we should pick a really great year, I think is not wise for a promise when you're saying this is the minimum level we're going to go. Certainly you can go higher. The county and the city have both done that. My guess is the towns and smaller communities have had variations as well where they have additional funds. But that's why I can't support 2019, because that's a great economic year. And I think to promise we will always have a great economic year is not something we can promise.
I agree with you, Wayne, on it's not good to promise something we cannot deliver, but it may end up that 2019 may be a low too. Like if we were into a recession in 10 years, that we would dip back to maybe 2021. To say that we would dip back to 2004. And I'll say that we started to recover as an economy from 2010, and every year thereafter, we were growing and recovering in a big way. And that led from prior administration up through the Trump administration, where then we had a really bad turn, a lot due to COVID, but we're back on track. So I think it's debatable to say that we'd be back at 2004 or 2017. When we are in a trajectory that I don't know about the infrastructure. We're going to have a workshop on that all day for on that in PPACG. I don't know that we can really speak to say, hey, that's just one time. Because I would think that that's going to cover all over for the next 10 years. So I think we need to know everything that's happening. I just want to make sure. You're afraid, your fear is that we're going to dip that low again. My fear is that we are never going to dip that low again, and we won't have that maintenance of effort at the levels it needs to be.
Any other comments? So,
This is
so
Commissioner
yeah.
Gonzalez. Again, I'm not as worried as the dip. I mean, those come and go, but as was mentioned by Nikki, we had, with the table retention in 2017, that's, and then a strong year in 2019, that's what added up to some of those one-time dollars. And so it's kind of an artificial, for us, it was an artificial increase for that year. So that's why 2019 is a bad year for us. And it was a good year, and we had extra dollars. We had the table retention, just a year previous that was approved. And so the math doesn't work out because that was an anomaly year for us. And so that's why we wanted 2017 as the last one. And as Nikki stated, maybe 2018, but that was not a normal year for us. And that's why it's not good for the county to try to say, well, this is the baseline. Well, that was an artificial year. Like this year, we added another 14 million. That's not going to happen next year. I mean, I'd be happy if I can get half of that in next year or the following year's budget. But again, we have an artificial increase that we're able to add 14 million to next year's budget, largely because of federal funds. That is a huge anomaly and can't be sustained, predictably sustained. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick.
Since this is a board policy change consideration and the board can take this up, this isn't a long-term decision. The board can take this up, annually, quarterly, monthly. So you can decide on something more current and then float and reconsider it on an as-needed basis.
Thank you for that input. That's good. With that said, we're clearly, obviously, as we discussed, we're not making a decision here today on that. Do we want to table this with leaving it at this time, either 2017 or 2019? Is that what I'm hearing, or am I injecting something, or should we continue with this discussion to try to narrow it down to a single year maintenance of effort? Yolanda, what's your opinion on that?
Well, maybe we should table it. I think everybody's had their say. I'm not sure if everybody has had their say. And I've had my say. I've certainly had my say. So maybe we can table it.
Yes, Mr. Williams.
I think we ought to put it on the February agenda item and note in the packet that different dates have been proposed, and we'll be considering 2017, 2019.
I agree with that. Anyone else on either online or around the table?
Yeah, I would support that, bringing this back up in February. Frankly, I need to know more about this. I'd like to reach back to my staff and get some adult supervision. Well, honestly, really, this is this is a matter that I don't feel I want to weigh in yet, and I'd like to sleep on it in effect. So if that's agreeable to the board, that'd be my preference.
I think that's what I'm hearing. I see a hand up.
Was that me?
No, I think it.
That's me.
Hi, Kari.
Commissioner Geithner. Yeah, so I just wanted to, I'm good with moving it to the February meeting. I just wanted to kind of chime in a little bit. I appreciate Yolanda's concern about keeping up that maintenance. I think that we're all very concerned about making sure that we are putting in the appropriate number or appropriate amount of dollars to make sure that we're keeping our roads up to date. And I also appreciate all of the conversation around being transparent and making sure that we can fulfill our promises to voters. I think those things are all very important. I just wanted to kind of point out that as we're talking about this, and we're looking at these numbers from 2017 or 2019, and even this year, as Commissioner Gonzalez mentioned, that we have put an additional $14 million into roads this year. I think it's important to remember that doesn't mean that we can't put more in.
Right.
We want to get to a kind of a minimum level that makes sense, that we feel like we can commit to. And then, of course, that means that we're all still going to strive to do our best. But I do think that it allows for us to move forward in terms of making this number closer to where we are, but it's also reasonable enough that we can keep that promise and we can still continue to, again, put in those, especially those one-time funds over and above when we can. So I just wanted to point out that while I understand the concern, it doesn't mean that we won't be putting more in. This is just kind of the absolute bottom basement type of a figure, but I'm happy to continue having that discussion in February.
Excellent point. Rick, I think we have a consensus. We'll move it to the February 2022 agenda.
So noted.
Anyone else on this issue on the PPRT 3 matrix? How about our guests who needed to be here? Anything else that you, Rick, you had another comment?
But just the second item under the PPRTA 3, the CAC composition.
Got it. So where do we, who wants to lead that off on that CAC composition? Rick?
I can.
Yes.
I'll start it, and I think
Yep.
Jim Godfrey will jump in. At the October board meeting, the board directed me to send an email to the 5-member governments, or not the 5-member governments, but the city and the county, to see if the city CTAB would be willing to send a 4th member over to the PPRTA CAC, and also to ask the county's HAC if they'd be willing to send a 4th member over to the PPRTA CAC. City CTAB declined. So I'm assuming that was sort of a package. It was both or neither. And since CTAB declined, that then pointed to the same kind of philosophy that the board took regarding the smaller member entities representation on the board. Since the board did take that action to reduce the voting power of the smaller entities on the board, Jim Godfrey and I worked up some options to discuss with the CAC, and he'll cover some options. The CAC decided not to make a recommendation when they met last Tuesday regarding a recomposition of the CAC, but deferred to the board. So at this point, I will distribute the options list that Jim Godfrey and I worked up, and Jim can cover that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you. Rick's passing out a piece of paper. I apologize, it's just numbers on a piece of paper that we were referring to and talking to, so it's not gussied up for board presentation material. So let me try to explain what this is.
Can it be put up online? Can Jessica put it up online?
I don't know, she may not have it. But I'm going to try to simplify this if I will. So with the CAC and a meeting, and as we're all familiar, a group can become unmanageable. And so you have to kind of keep in mind the size of the group that you're dealing with when you do this. At the same time, each of the member governments deserve their representation at the CAC. So let me just start by saying, since I've been involved with the CAC, I don't recall a parochial conversation. It is for the good of the region. It is the good of what the mission in the RTA is about. And everybody gets a chance to make their pitch or spiel, but it's not one of those, this is my project or my road or whatever. So let me just say that. And the other thing is that we're a recommending body only, not a decision body. And so it's important that each member of government get representation, which brings us to this piece of paper. So our current representation and size of the group is 21 without adding Callahan. In some of those communities, they're relatively small and have had a challenge finding two people within that community to be active representations on the CAC. They've had representation, but the person doesn't necessarily live in that town or city. And so the proposal that Rick and I were talking through, we threw out, discussed, given that we want to maintain the ratio of the city and the county as the two larger entities. So on this piece of paper, the far left column represents the current membership, 3 each for city and county, 2 for Manitou, Green Mountain Falls, and Rama. We got 5 at large and 4 at large alternates.
And I apologize for the board members online, which we don't
Yeah,
have that ability to.
Hey, I apologize.
see
We didn't
that.
include this in the packet. We just kind of put this together within the last day or so. So I apologize for
And
that.
Jim, as he just did, he'll define each one. as far as
Yes.
Numbers.
So one recommendation would be to reduce Rama, Green Mountain Falls, and Calhan to a rep versus 2 reps. Leave Manitou at 2, and then leave the city and county at 3. And that, other than size, we thinking that to me, it didn't make sense to throw Manitou in with Rama due to the size of the budget and the other things. And at the same time, Manitou is not as big as the city and county. So it adds a little bit of stratification to the membership, if you will, by doing it this way, but it still gives those all member governments representation on the CAC. Yes.
So historically, how often the county and city have always been able to fill their slots from people from within the county or the city?
And Manitou Springs.
How often have Manitou, Green Mountain Falls, or Rama, and I don't know, so I'm looking at both those representatives and you, Jim. How often have they appointed someone who didn't live in their community because they couldn't find enough within their community?
May I?
Yes, I was gonna say.
I think Manitou routinely has 2 residents that they appoint and they regularly attend. Green Mountain Falls and Rama, from memory, have never, until just recently, last month or so, have never had 2 CAC representatives who lived in each of Green Mountain Falls and Rama. They've always had 1 each, and then had sort of an at-large person, a non-resident of that town, serving as a second rep.
And do they now have?
Green Mountain Falls, as of last month, has found a second resident effective January 1st. But if you're wondering what the next step would be, we have open at-large seats. We have 4 open at-large seats. We've received 3 applications for 4 seats. The subcommittee, Chair, Vice Chair, and Jim Godfrey have suspended those interviews pending what the board might decide with the second reps from Manitou, Green Falls, and Rama, because they would obviously want to either be assigned or compete for the at-large seats.
Did that answer your question? So the rest of these columns on this piece of paper that the people in the room have were just various other options, if you will. And so the option that I would like to put forward is reduce Green Mountain Falls. And I apologize, none of the board members have heard this recommendation, so it hasn't been put out there. But reduce those to 1, add Calhan, and it eliminates 1 at-large alternate position and brings us to 20 instead of 21. Did I say that right?
If you're looking at column 2.
Yes.
Was that, Jim, was that what you were referring to, column 2?
Yes.
That would reduce Green Mountain Falls and Rama by 1, leave Manitou at 2, keep the at-large at 5, and keep the alternates at 4. So that would be 19 plus 1 for Calhan, which takes you to 20.
And then the other columns are just various other variations on that theme. We could, and so
and
PAC was really kind of ambivalent, and it doesn't matter as long as the room doesn't get to be 20 or 30, 30 people, and it gets to be an unmanageable group. On those issues where we do have good discussions, we let everyone have their speak, and once we start into the second or third iteration, then it's kind of really up to the chair to control the conversation. But I'll say it again, that everyone gets their speak, that gets their representation. Dennis, Mayor Carpenter was a member of that group, and he can speak that everybody gets a chance to speak their piece and say what they have to say. So it's just a way of crowd management, but at the same time giving representation, and is what we're proposing. We aren't proposing because we didn't really discuss these numbers. It was stuff that Rick and I.
So this certainly is probably not ready for a decision today. The board might want to refer out an option or two to the member governments and get response back either January or February.
I don't know whether Gail wanted to comment.
Mr. Chair, Gail Sturman with the City of Colorado
Yes.
Springs. The city CTAB, or the Citizens Transportation Advisory Board, actually proposed an alternate solution that has not been discussed. So in all fairness, as the speaker for them, I want to make sure that you see the option. So as Rick mentioned, CTAB was not interested in sending a 4th member, primarily, as Jim was saying, that they really wanted to keep that 21 member size. So what they proposed is that a reduction in the smaller member governments to 1, but to flex those positions to the at-large alternative or alternate position. So the total potential number of members of the board would always say 21. And they also, as in what they proposed, would consider adding future governments as well, again, maintaining the number of 21. So I just want to say there is a memo that was put together. I don't believe it was in your packets.
No, it was not.
But we can make sure that you see that, because I think CTAB actually came with a well thought out solution for consideration now and for future.
All right, thank you. And Jennifer.
I just wanted to add, we have not received any input from the HAC. They have not had a meeting since the last PPRTA board meeting. They will be having their next meeting next week. And I will probably fashion input from them based upon kind of what I hear today as far as direction, or if that ends up going to our actual board of directors members. So I did have some informal conversations with some of them. Much of the consensus, at least from those informal conversations, was this consensus of not to increase the overall membership, i.e. the total number of the PPRTA CAC. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Let me make sure and part of this is for those online who don't have the numbers in front of them. So there's a lot of things that stay the same under both those proposals, but let me make sure I understand the differences. Under what Jim suggested, you take Green Mountain Falls, Rama, reduce them from 2 to 1, add Callahan as 1, and you'd reduce the overall size to 20. What I heard Gail say is do that, but add 1 at large so that you keep the number at 21. Is that accurate?
That is correct. And if you look on the matrix that was passed out by Jim and Rick, it's really that third column, with the exception is that the alternates would be changed from 4 to 6, and then Callahan would have 1, and the total would stay at 21.
But Manitou Springs is reduced to 1.
I guess from my point of view, I think we want to, I'm concerned about something that reduces the total at large membership, because I think it's important to have some people who are speaking for the whole community. I recognize that all of them do once they get there, but I want that to still be so I don't want to reduce that. And I guess I'd ask Dennis what your thoughts are on the 2 proposals that would reduce Raymond to 1 and Green Mountain Falls to 1.
Just my seat here, would we still have a seat on the CAC?
Yes, this is
the CAC.
This is
You're
the
unable
CAC
to
we're
hear
talking
him.
about.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
microphone's not on.
You still have a seat here regardless of what we do with the CAC. Okay.
Mayor, I don't think they can hear you online. I'm not sure if your microphone's on.
We're not able to hear him online.
Yes, I said that the Rama would be applicable to the 1 rep on the CAC.
Okay, thank you. Comments from online.
So I guess to follow up on that, then, given that maybe putting the CTAB proposal and and Jim's proposal in kind of a formalized document, sending it out to folks, getting the advisory committee's input on that and the member government's input. But it seems like a reasonable way. And I think the fact that Rick said we've got openings so that Green Mountain Falls, we could move 1 of their people to an alternate spot or a at-large spot, since there's an at-large opening. So that way we don't lose someone who just signed up.
And our recommendation would be let them make that decision of who they want to go to that at-large alternate position.
Sounds reasonable, but yeah, let's get that out for input. Cindy, come to a mic.
And I assume it's understood, but is Calhan now allowed to appoint 1 CAC before you make this decision? And if it stays at 2, we'll deal with it, but can we appoint 1 for January?
Yes. See, we just voted you in, starting 1
get-
January, so in
So
our
we get at
January-
least 1, so if we hold off on the other until you guys decide. Okay.
Good idea.
This is Jennifer. Rick, is that accurate? I have not reviewed the bylaws, so I'm not actually sure if the bylaws contemplate additional members.
The board will need to amend the bylaws to add Callahan reps. So we'll have to have that on the January board meeting agenda. But we won't know if it should say 1 or 2.
Mr.
That
Williams.
was my fear.
Yeah. So let me ask Jennifer, do we have a capability of making a motion now to add at least 1, or can we not do that under our notices that we've got here?
Yeah, since it wasn't an agenda, since it wasn't on the
You can't
agenda, my
vote.
preference is always not to add it unless it's an emergency item or ministerial. So my
So-
preference would be not to do that at this point.
Well,
So could we,
amend the,
since you've got item 11B, appointment process for Citizens Advisory Committee members, can it fit within that?
Oh, you're right. It's the good thing when you look at the agenda. Thank you. Yes, I think you could fairly consider it under that.
Also, in the matrix item 11A is an approval item. So.
Yeah, I
guess it'd
think,
be-
I think you could direct having that ability, having a
yes,
CalHan member as part of that agenda item and direction to update the bylaws accordingly or to wait on updating the bylaws until the rest of this is resolved, either way.
Mr. Williams.
Then, Mr. Chair, during the pendency of the bylaws and recognizing that there may be some additional changes in the future, I would move that beginning January 1st, that CalHan be empowered to appoint at least, actually, I'll leave it. CalHan shall be empowered to appoint one member of the CAC effective January 1st, 2000.
So we have a
22.
motion and I'll let Jim we'll do a discussion in just a moment.
Okay.
If we get a second.
Yolanda, second.
So we have a motion and a second. Discussion, Jim.
I was just going to say, does membership on the CAC and the board implied by accepting them as a new member of the RTA?
We're going to fix that right now, and it's not going to matter.
Agreed.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We have any other discussion on this issue? Okay, all in favor of passing this motion to include CalHan in the Citizens Advisory Committee beginning 1 January along with their inclusion. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have none. The motion passes. There you go, Cindy. And Roland.
And then having resolved that
Yeah,
issue, then
yes.
going back to the main part of this, let's put on,
Table.
I think, the February discussion.
Yeah.
Which of the various proposals, we don't need Jim's entire matrix here, but what their recommendation is. And CTAB, and if Hack makes one, send that all to the CAC, have them look at it.
So I see three motions.
then come forward.
Excuse me, three recommendations.
Mr. Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Yes, ma'am.
Both the discussion on the CAC makeup and for that matter, the maintenance of effort policy on number 11, neither of those are really PPRTA 3 items. Those are really board policy discussions that we actually start considering those as separate items and leave the PPRTA 3 matrix stand as it's been decided thus far.
Agreed. Yep. All right, let me see where we're at now on the PPRTA 3 matrix. I think we're not going to have a vote. So is there anything else on there, Rick, that needs to be approved for Gail or Jennifer too?
So Gail, are we interpreting that the PPRTA 3 matrix is concluded and the board has made all its decisions since we are taking the maintenance of our base year and the CAC reorganization off the matrix?
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting. And I think to close it out, we'll publish it one more time with the decision to separate as an issue not particularly related to PPRTA 3. So you can see those in your packets next month in the minutes. And then it sounds like you'll have these two discussions for future consideration in January and February for your decision.
Thank you. Anyone online that has a comment or question about this particular PPRTA 3 matrix concerns?
I reserve the right to have questions as I start drafting the ballot, but none for now.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mr. Williams.
Well, and right, as she's crafting the ballot, as issues come up, this is just direction essentially for the
Yes.
drafting. And so do we need a motion to approve the matrix with the deletion of those two items being moved to policy questions? Because it is agendized for an approval.
I would yield to Jennifer, Ivy, and Gail to see what they want. I think Gail just suggested it wait a month, but I think it's worthy of discussion.
And to clarify, I actually think it would be worthwhile to close out the matrix at the direction. We do take one more vote because if you recall, the other 15 items, you voted on each item
we did.
separately. That we make a motion that we close and remove those two items, the MOE and the CAC makeup from the discussion and have those separate items and complete the PPRTA 3 matrix so it can be used for beginning of drafting the ballot language.
So moving.
Okay, we've had a motion to close out the PPRTA 3 matrix by removing the maintenance of effort and the CAC membership from those 18 or whatever the number turned out to be. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second John Graham.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. We have a motion and a second, and now we're open for discussion on this particular motion. I hear none, see none. With that, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have none. The motion passes. With that, we have completed PPRTA 3 matrix issues. We have 2 other issues that we will resolve. As I understand it, so are we doing that in the January or the February? I understand it's a February, so as long as everybody understands that. Any questions online or comments online? Nope. So with that, we move to 11B, appointment, reappointment process for the Citizens Advisory Committee members. And Rick, you want to?
Please, yes.
Go ahead, Rick.
Just wanted to give the backup.
Right.
And then turn it over to you, Mr. Chair. As the board is aware, there are several openings in at-large and at-large alternate seats on the Citizen Advisory Committee. The board directed me to advertise. I did advertise. We have 3 applications that came in due to that advertising. Per board policy, the board chair, board vice chair, and the CAC chair are the board subcommittee to review and make recommendations regarding at-large and at-large alternate CAC members. That subcommittee was poised and ready to interview the 3 candidates in addition to Mr. Jim Godfrey, who's requesting to be reappointed. But I, in consultation with the chair and the vice chair, decided to hold off on those interviews of the 3 candidates other than Jim Godfrey, pending a board decision on the potential reduction of Rama Green Mountain Falls and or Manitou, because then those second reps might have to compete for those at-large seats. So the subcommittee did not hold the interviews for those 3 candidates, but they did meet on Monday, and they do have a recommendation regarding Jim Godfrey.
Jim, would you go ahead and step forward? So yes, the vice chair and myself, along with Rick, we held, it was an extensive interview. It was, I don't know, 3 hours long, something to that effect, with Jim. And I know we put him on the hot spot and asked him a gazillion questions. And I just want to say, as I said after the interview, that I really appreciate his leadership, what he has done and what he will do in the future with our Citizens Advisory Committee. And it was a unanimous vote by the subcommittee to reaffirm Jim Godfrey. So now we bring it before the board for a motion and approval to reaffirm Jim Godfrey for his next term.
And might I suggest that the subcommittee is recommending, currently Jim is an at-large alternate. The subcommittee is recommending that Jim take one of the at-large regular seats, and it would be a 3-year term.
So moved. We have a motion,
I'll second John Graham.
second, and I know the discussion is going to be lengthy that we're going to grill Jim up here, so. All right, online, does anyone have any comments or questions on the motion and second on this particular motion? I see and hear none. Around the table, no more. With that said, we will hold the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's right. All opposed? I hear none. I see none. With that said, the motion has passed. Congratulations, Jim, for being renewed.
Thank you all for your confidence. I appreciate it. I try to earn it each day, each month. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That's 11 Bravo, 11. Anything else on that, Rick? On
No,
the
sir.
two subjects there? Okay. 11 Charlie, reappointment of board members. And I made the comment in our earlier discussion there, Mr. Williams, that despite trying to not be reaffirmed, at least for the city of Colorado Springs, we didn't have any choice. We were voted on and reaffirmed on this particular board. And for council member Avila, the three of us were reaffirmed. So, because I remember, at least I think that's what happened. That was the minutes. Where are the others?
We're awaiting word on the others. Yes, from the council staff member, Michael Montgomery, I've heard that he's going to get me the minutes of your November 23 council meeting, indicating the appointments, and that all of the three directors, the primary directors, and that the balance of the council members will be alternates to the PPRTA board. But I've not heard anything from the other 4-member governments. This is just an information item, just reminding board members that we need, and Jennifer Ivey will back me up on this, we need written confirmation of your appointment by your respective governing bodies to the PPRTA board for calendar 22. Also to remind the board that they will need to pick their chair and vice chair for calendar 22, and that the chair will need to be the county director and the vice chair will need to be a city director.
When do we actually do that?
At your January 12 meeting.
At the very beginning, correct?
Yes, yes.
So
Your reign
this
is
is-
ending.
I know, you see the smile on my face? Okay, any other comments on reappointment of board members? Online, anyone? I see or hear none. Okay, that's moving on to, wow, item 12. Look at this.
Nope. Sorry, I added an agenda item.
That's right, you did. I
11.
apologize, 11 Delta.
I'm sorry. I know everyone's ready to be done.
Nope. Yeah.
This is very quick. We discussed at a previous meeting that the Avery Asphalt Inc., who did the Van Buren contract for the city and PPRTA, that they had filed for bankruptcy. We engaged special counsel to help us administer the closeout of that contract. And that is at sort of the 2-yard line, maybe the 1-yard line. I think we're just waiting on getting checks cut and sent out, which is good news. Until this morning, Rick sent me a summons and complaint, which were named as defendants on, for the avoidance of liens and determination of validity and extent and priority of liens. This essentially is the private parties fighting about who's going to get what money and who gets it first. My preliminary review of this is that the PPRTA and the city probably can get dismissed from this, because once we make the payment, we shouldn't have any further liability. But I did just want to bring it to the board's attention and ask for approval to extend Mr. Cal with Sherman and Howard his engagement to prepare an answer, because we do need to prepare and file an answer to this complaint by January 3rd.
So moved. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I see none online, see none around the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Therefore, the motion passes. Thank you,
very
Jennifer.
much.
Now, we can move on to 12. PPRTA member announcements. We'll start around the table with Dennis. Mayor, you're up, sir. Thank you. Mayor Graham.
On behalf of the people of Manitou Springs, I wish you a happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Look forward to a better year next year.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
I agree.
Online, let's
This
I
is
see-
Holly. I made it for the last vote.
all right. Hey,
So
Thanks,
far,
Holly.
yeah, so far that COVID test is negative, so we're happy.
Great news.
I was just, I wasn't going to comment on how Wayne Williams is sitting right next to me up here.
Who hasn't not triple vaccinated?
Yes, so am I. But thank you, Holly, and it's glad to hear your voice and that you're doing better. All right, I see Commissioner Gonzalez online. Anything, sir?
Nothing. If we don't see any, but if I don't see the rest of you, enjoy a wonderful holiday and Christmas and New Year.
And Councilmember Avila. Oh, I lost her. About Commissioner Geithner.
I'll just reiterate the same, that I hope everyone has a fantastic holiday season.
Thank you, Carrie. And anyone, I don't see anyone from Green Mountain Falls, so I think I got everyone. Myself, I will say, I was wondering how long I get to sit up here and do this, so this is really my last one, and I've appreciated and enjoyed, and I've been honored and humbled of sitting up here, being the chair of the PPRTA. And I've learned just a tremendous amount from Rick and others, and for all the staff. And I really appreciate it, whether it's Jess or Andy or Gail or Jennifer and Jennifer. Got that right. And for Jim and Reb and the others, thank you. And I look forward to 2022 myself. And I'll say by Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. And with that, any announcements around the table? Does staff, anyone have anything they want to? I see no hands.
Happy holidays, everyone. Hopefully, I'll be back in January. I apologize. I haven't had my COVID test yet, but I was exposed this week. So
Right. Okay.
I will, I'll be
Thank you,
back in
Jennifer.
person in January.
All right. Anyone else have there it is. With that said, the meeting is adjourned. Wow, 2 hours and we're out of here. I finally got it right.